The Last Stand. Captain Nikolai Volkov stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, his weathered face illuminated by the crimson alerts flashing across every console. The ship, the last true warship of humanity's once mighty fleet, drifted silently at the edge of the Karani's nebula, its stealth systems engaged and power signatures minimized to near undetectable levels. Proximity alert, Captain, Lieutenant Commander Alara Thorne reported, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. Multiple signatures emerging from the quantum gate. Configuration matches Zeheran warships, a lot of them. Volkov's steel-gray eyes narrowed as the holographic display materialized before him. The Zeheran Armada was supposed to be patrolling the core systems, not venturing this far into the uncharted regions where the remnants of humanity had hidden for the past century. Counting 73 distinct vessels, Chief Sensor Officer Darius Webb announced, his voice steady despite the implications. 3 dreadnoughts, 12 battlecruisers, and multiple support craft. This is a full invasion fleet, sir. Volkov felt the familiar weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. The Defiance wasn't just any ship, it represented humanity's last hope. After the Great Purge 80 years ago, when the Zeheran Imperium had systematically hunted humans across the galaxy, the survivors had scattered to the edges of known space, establishing hidden colonies and keeping to the shadows. Send the emergency transmission to Haven Colony, Volkov ordered. Code Black, they need to initiate evacuation protocols immediately. Communications Officer Juno Reyes nodded grimly. Transmission away, encrypted on quantum channels. Confirmation received. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what Code Black meant, discovery by the Zeherans, the end of everything they had built. Your orders, Captain, First Officer Marcus Jin asked, standing rigidly at attention beside Volkov's command chair. The nebula offers cover for a potential escape route. We might reach the secondary rally point before they detect us. Volkov studied the tactical display, mentally calculating their options. Running meant leading the Zeherans directly to the remaining human settlements. Staying meant certain destruction. The Defiance, despite its advanced technology, couldn't hope to defeat an entire armada. Unless... Plot an intercept course, Volkov announced, causing heads to snap up across the bridge. Power up the singularity drive and bring all weapon systems online. Captain, Jin's voice betrayed his shock. With respect, we're facing an armada. The Defiance isn't designed for direct confrontation against these odds. A cold smile crossed Volkov's face. No, Commander, but neither is it designed according to Zeheran expectations. Our ancestors didn't spend 2 decades building this vessel in secret just for us to run at the first sign of trouble. The Defiance was unique, the culmination of humanity's desperate ingenuity. While the Zeherans believed they had destroyed all human military capability during the Purge, a secret coalition of survivors had pooled their resources to create something unprecedented. A warship incorporating forbidden technologies and experimental systems developed in the desperate years of hiding. Engineering reports singularity drive at 90% capacity, announced Chief Engineer Takashi Himura through the comm. His voice carried the distinctive accent of the Proxima colonies. Graviton shields are online and the phase shift arrays are primed and ready. Whatever you're planning, Captain, we're set to deliver. Volkov activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the Captain. In moments, we will engage a Zeheran Armada. They outnumber us 73-1. They outgun us by conventional metrics, but conventional warfare isn't our strategy today. He paused, letting his words sink in. For 80 years, we've hidden in the shadows, surviving by staying invisible. Today, we show them why humanity was worth exterminating and why they failed. Battle stations. Volkov out. Across the ship, 287 men and women, the descendants of scientists, soldiers, and survivors, moved with practiced precision. The Defiance wasn't crewed by traditional military personnel. Each person aboard was a specialist in multiple disciplines, carrying the accumulated knowledge of humanity's desperate fight for survival. They've detected us, Thorne reported as sensors indicated Zeheran vessels altering course. Lead battlecruiser is launching fighter squadrons. Time to intercept 3 minutes. Deploy countermeasures, Volkov ordered. Activate the EXOS defense grid and prepare the Shrike missiles for targeted deployment. The exterior of the Defiance transformed as previously hidden ports opened across its hull, revealing a network of autonomous defense turrets. technology that had been merely theoretical when humanity last faced the Zehurans openly. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Zehuran flagship," Reyes called out. On screen, Volkov commanded. The imposing figure of a Zehuran commander appeared on the main display, reptilian features set in an expression of cold superiority, scaled skin gleaming beneath the ornate armor that marked his high rank. "Unidentified vessel," the Zehuran spoke in the common galactic tongue, his voice carrying the distinctive harmonic distortion of his species. "I am Grand Admiral Khosrith of the Imperial Zehuran Armada. You have entered restricted space. Your ship configuration is unknown to our databases. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." Volkov stood straightening his uniform. "This is Captain Nikolai Volkov of the human starship Defiance, and you, Admiral, have entered our territory." The Zehuran's vertical pupils contracted in shock, then fury. "Impossible. The human vermin were eradicated generations ago." "Evidently not thoroughly enough," Volkov replied with dangerous calm. "We've been watching you for decades, Admiral, waiting, building, preparing." "A single ship," Khosrith laughed, the sound like grinding metal. "Your species' arrogance remains intact even on the edge of extinction. This will be remedied momentarily." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Incoming fire," Webb shouted. "Multiple disruptor beams and gravitic torpedoes." "Activate phase shift," Volkov ordered calmly. The bridge lighting dimmed momentarily as the Defiance's most revolutionary system engaged. Conventional shields would have buckled under the concentrated firepower of even a single Zehuran battlecruiser. Instead, the phase shift technology briefly moved the ship partially out of normal spacetime, allowing the energy weapons to pass harmlessly through its location. "Phase shift successful," Jin reported, unable to keep the amazement from his voice. "No damage sustained." "Their sensors will be confused by our disappearance," Volkov noted. "Bring us about and target the lead battlecruiser's propulsion systems. Deploy Shrike missiles full spread." The Defiance's weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in nearly a century. The Shrike missiles, small, hyper-accelerated projectiles carrying quantum-entangled payloads, streaked toward the massive Zehuran vessel. Upon impact, they didn't simply explode. They created localized reality distortions, shearing through the battlecruiser's reinforced hull as if it were paper. "Direct hits confirmed," Thorne announced, her voice rising in excitement. "Zehuran battlecruiser's propulsion and weapons systems are offline, they're drifting." On the tactical display, the Zehuran formations scattered in confusion. Their precisely coordinated attack patterns dissolved as commanders struggled to comprehend how a single vessel had disabled one of their most powerful ships without sustaining damage. "They're regrouping," Webb reported, "changing tactics, multiple targeting locks from all directions." "As expected," Volkov said, "they'll try to overwhelm our phase shift capability with concentrated fire from multiple vectors." He tapped his command console. "Himura, status of the Singularity Drive." "At full capacity, Captain," the chief engineer responded. "We can execute 2, maybe 3 jumps before needing to recharge." Volkov nodded. "Prepare for precision jump, coordinates to follow." The Singularity Drive was the Defiance's most closely guarded secret, a propulsion system that didn't merely travel through space but briefly folded it, allowing for instantaneous repositioning during combat. Unlike conventional FTL drives, it required no acceleration and left no energy trail. "Jump coordinates locked," Jin confirmed after receiving Volkov's instructions. "That's inside their formation, sir." "Precisely," Volkov replied. "Execute." The stars blurred momentarily as the Defiance vanished from its position and reappeared in the heart of the Zehuran formation between 2 dreadnoughts. Before the enemy could react, Volkov gave his next order. "Deploy the Helios array, full dispersal." From recessed compartments along the Defiance's hull, dozens of small satellites emerged, forming a sphere around the ship before rapidly expanding outward. As they reached predetermined positions, each activated a powerful electromagnetic pulse calibrated specifically to the frequencies used by Zehuran ships. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Systems failed across multiple vessels, lights flickered and died, weapons powered down, communications dissolved into static. 17 Zehuran vessels completely disabled, Thorne reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement. Another 22 showing significant systems failures. On the main view screen, the confusion in the Zeheran fleet was evident. Ships drifted out of formation, some colliding with each other as their navigational controls failed. Fighter squadrons cut off from their command carriers scattered in disarray. The flagship is unaffected, Webb warned. They must have more robust shielding. As expected, Volkov acknowledged. Prepare for another jump, coordinates. Captain, Reyes interrupted urgently. I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Zeheran flagship. They're charging something massive, not in our weapons database. Volkov's expression hardened. Evasive maneuvers, full power too. The bridge rocked violently as a previously unknown weapon struck the Defiance. The phase shift system sputtered and failed, and warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Jin shouted over the alarms. Graviton shields at 30%. Volkov steadied himself against his command chair. Status of the singularity drive. Offline, Himura's strained voice came through. The energy discharge created quantum interference patterns. We need 10 minutes to reset the system. On the tactical display, the remaining operational Zeheran vessels were regrouping, converging on the now vulnerable Defiance like predators sensing wounded prey. Captain, Thorne said quietly, the flagship is charging for another shot, given our current shield status. Volkov understood the unspoken conclusion. They wouldn't survive another hit from that weapon. All power to the remaining shields, he ordered. Prepare to deploy the Lazarus Protocol. A hush fell over the bridge. The Lazarus Protocol was their final contingency, never tested in actual combat, with uncertain consequences even for the Defiance itself. Sir, Jin said solemnly, that system is theoretical at best. Dr. Takemura warned that deploying it could destroy us along with them, Volkov finished. I'm aware of the risks, Commander. As the Zeheran Armada closed in and the flagship's unknown weapon reached critical charge, Volkov stood tall on his bridge, facing the view screen where the massive enemy vessels loomed. All hands, he announced shipwide, prepare for Lazarus Protocol initiation. Whatever happens next, remember this, today humanity stopped running. He turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant Rivera, activate the Lazarus Protocol, target the Zeheran flagship. Rivera's fingers moved across his console, inputting the complex sequence that would unleash humanity's most desperate creation upon their ancient enemy. Lazarus Protocol activated, he confirmed as lights throughout the ship dimmed. May God help us all, echoes of redemption. The Lazarus Protocol unleashed a blinding flash across the battlefield, momentarily overloading the visual sensors on the Defiance's bridge. When the displays stabilized, Captain Volkov beheld a sight none had predicted. The Zeheran flagship remained intact but frozen in space, surrounded by a shimmering field of quantum distortion. Status report, Volkov demanded, his voice steady despite the tension gripping the bridge. The Lazarus Protocol, it worked, sir, but not as expected, Lieutenant Rivera replied, frantically analyzing incoming data. Instead of destruction, it's created some kind of temporal stasis field. The Zeheran flagship is caught in a localized time dilation effect. Chief Engineer Himura's voice crackled over the comms, breathless with excitement. Captain, the Takemura equations actually balanced. The temporal inversion created a stable pocket rather than cascade failure. We're receiving massive data transmission from within the field. Lieutenant Commander Thorne's fingers flew across her console. Confirm, sir. We're receiving what appears to be the flagship's entire database, transmitting to us at accelerated rates. The quantum entanglement effect is breaking through their encryption as if it doesn't exist. Volkov leaned forward, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display. And the rest of their fleet. Holding position, sir, Chief Sensor Officer Webb reported. They appear confused. Communications between their vessels suggest they don't understand what's happening to their flagship. They're waiting for orders that aren't coming. A rare smile crossed Volkov's face. Then we have a moment to breathe. Himura, how long until the singularity drive is back online? 7 minutes, Captain. The quantum interference is dissipating faster than expected. And our shields. Graviton shields regenerating at 12%. We should have minimal defensive capability in approximately 5 minutes. Volkov nodded. Juno, are you able to decrypt any of this Zeheran data yet? Communications officer raises dark eyes widened as information flooded her screens. Yes, sir. The quantum entanglement is creating a translation matrix I've never seen before. It's as if the Lazarus protocol was designed specifically to interface with Zehuran systems. First Officer Jin moved closer to Volkov, lowering his voice. That's impossible, sir. Dr. Takemura designed the Lazarus protocol based on theoretical principles. There's no way she could have tailored it to Zehuran technology she'd never seen. Unless, Volkov replied quietly, she had seen it before. The implication hung in the air between them. The origins of the Defiance's most advanced systems had always been shrouded in mystery. Dr. Takemura had been one of the few survivors of the original purge, a brilliant physicist who had worked tirelessly until her death 15 years ago, creating technologies that seemed decades, perhaps centuries ahead of their time. Captain Thorne called out suddenly, "You need to see this, now." The main view screen shifted to display a stream of Zehuran historical records, images, texts, and data flowing so quickly they could barely be comprehended. But certain elements stood out with searing clarity. Humans and Zehurans working side by side in laboratories on starships in what appeared to be joint settlements. "This can't be right," Jin whispered. "According to all our historical records, humans and Zehurans never had peaceful contact. The first encounter resulted in immediate hostility and the beginning of the purge." "Apparently our historical records are incomplete," Volkov replied grimly. "Rays, can you slow this down, focus on the earliest chronological entries?" The data stream adjusted, revealing images from nearly 2 centuries ago, the early days of humanity's expansion beyond their home system. The records showed diplomatic meetings between human representatives and Zehuran officials, scientific exchange programs, even evidence of cultural celebrations combining elements from both species. "There's more, sir," Reyes said, her voice shaking. "I'm finding references to something called the Symbiosis Project, a joint human-Zehuran initiative focused on biological compatibility and shared evolution." The bridge fell silent as the implications settled over them. Everything they had believed about the origins of the conflict, the fundamental narrative that had shaped human survival for generations, was being called into question. Captain, Webb interrupted urgently. "The remaining Zehuran vessels are beginning to organize. Without orders from their flagship, it appears the second-in-command is assuming control. They're forming attack patterns." Volkov's mind raced. The Defiants couldn't withstand another coordinated assault, not with their systems still recovering. But the information they were receiving could change everything if they survived long enough to understand it. "Thorne," he ordered, "focus on finding anything about why the Alliance broke down. What caused the purge? We need answers before that fleet opens fire." As if in response to his words, a new data stream appeared on the screen, classified Zehuran military records, bearing security clearances so high that even the translation matrix struggled to process them. But the images required no translation. Sabotaged research facilities, assassinations of key figures from both species, falsified communications designed to create mutual distrust. "It was engineered," Thorne breathed, horrified. "The conflict wasn't natural, it was deliberately orchestrated." "By whom?" Volkov demanded. The answer came not from the data stream but from an unexpected source. The main view screen flickered, and the face of Grand Admiral Cosrath appeared, no longer imperious and threatening, but confused and disoriented. What have you done to my ship?" the Zehuran demanded, his usual harmonic tones fragmented. "Time is wrong, my officers are frozen, but I can see you through the communications array. How is this possible?" Volkov stepped forward. "Admiral Cosrath, we've activated a temporal distortion field around your vessel. You're experiencing time at an accelerated rate compared to the rest of the battle space." The Admiral's vertical pupils contracted in shock. "Impossible, such technology is beyond even theoretical." He stopped abruptly, his gaze drawn to something off-screen. "What is that data transmission? Those are classified Imperial archives you dare to steal." "We're not stealing anything, Admiral," Volkov interrupted. "The Lazarus Protocol appears to have created a quantum entanglement between our systems and yours. Information is flowing both ways." He paused, "including the truth about our shared history." Cosrath's scaled features registered alarm, then confusion. "What shared history? Humans have always been enemies of the Imperium, a genetic aberration that—" He stopped again, this time staring at something on his own displays. This cannot be correct. These records were purged generations ago. Apparently not thoroughly enough, Volkov replied, echoing the Admiral's earlier taunt. It seems both our species have been living with falsified histories, Admiral. The question is, who benefits from our mutual destruction? Before Cosworth could respond, Thorne called out, Captain, I found something critical security footage from the Terminal Research Station, dated exactly 178 years ago. The screen split, showing both Cosworth's increasingly troubled face and the recovered footage. The images showed a massive research facility in orbit around an unfamiliar world. Human and Zeharan scientists worked side by side, monitoring equipment surrounding what appeared to be a massive containment field. Within the field floated a crystalline entity, pulsing with inner light. The Nexus being, Cosworth whispered, his voice tinged with both awe and horror. I thought it was merely a myth, a story to frighten hatchlings. As they watched, the containment field in the footage suddenly failed. The crystalline entity expanded, tendrils of energy lashing out at the scientists. But instead of attacking randomly, it seemed to target specific individuals, 3 humans and 4 Zeharans, all wearing distinctive insignia marking them as project leaders. The footage continued, showing the aftermath, surviving scientists from both species arguing violently, accusing each other of sabotage. Security forces arrived, shots were fired, and chaos erupted. The final frames showed a Zeharan military commander and a human security chief each sending emergency transmissions to their respective governments. The Symbiosis project was close to a breakthrough, Thorne explained, reading through accompanying data files. They had discovered a sentient crystalline entity that existed partially in higher dimensions. It demonstrated the ability to bridge the biological gap between humans and Zeharans, potentially allowing a true symbiotic relationship that would benefit both species. But something went wrong, Volkov continued, piecing it together. The entity escaped containment, and in the chaos, extremists on both sides seized the opportunity to derail decades of cooperation. Not extremists, Cosworth said suddenly, his voice hollow. Look at the insignia on the military commander who sent the first distress call. That's not standard Imperial procedure, that's the mark of the evolutionary purists, a secretive faction within our hierarchy. His scaled face darkened. They've always existed on the fringes of our society, preaching that Zeharan genetics must remain pure, that cooperation with other species is degeneration. We had similar groups, Jin acknowledged grimly. Human supremacists who believed our species should dominate, not cooperate. Volkov's mind raced. So fringe elements from both our species collaborated to sabotage the project, then manipulated the aftermath to trigger a full-scale conflict. A conflict that nearly destroyed your kind and left mine unchallenged in the galaxy for generations, Cosworth said, his tone unreadable. Until today. A tense silence fell. Outside, the Zeharan fleet continued to regroup, preparing to attack a ship that, by all conventional measures, should have been easy to destroy. Admiral, Volkov said finally, in approximately 4 minutes your fleet will open fire on my vessel. Without our primary defensive systems fully restored, we will likely be destroyed. But before that happens, the Lazarus Protocol will transfer every bit of this rediscovered truth to every colony, outpost, and hidden human settlement across the galaxy. He let that sink in. The truth will outlive us both. Cosworth's expression shifted through a range of emotions unfamiliar on a Zeharan face. Shock, denial, anger, and finally, something resembling resignation. You would die to expose this lie, he asked. We've been dying because of this lie for nearly 2 centuries, Volkov replied simply. The Zeharan admiral was silent for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, he straightened and pressed a sequence on his command console. This is Grand Admiral Cosworth to all vessels, he announced, his voice carrying the formal harmonics of highest authority. Stand down immediately. I repeat, stand down. No vessel is to fire upon the human ship under any circumstances. The bridge crew of the Defiance exchanged glances of disbelief. Admiral Volkov questioned cautiously. Cosworth's vertical pupils fixed on him with unsettling intensity. Captain Volkov, I propose an immediate ceasefire and the formation of a joint investigation committee to verify these historical records. He paused. If what we've discovered is accurate, both our species have been manipulated into a conflict that has cost millions of lives and centuries of potential progress. And if your subordinates refuse your orders, Volkov asked, the purists within your ranks may not appreciate this sudden change in policy. A cold smile spread across the Admiral's reptilian features. Then we shall discover who the true enemies are, shall we not? He activated another communication channel. This is Grand Admiral Khosroth. I am declaring emergency protocol Shivara. Any vessel that disobeys my direct order to stand down will be considered in open rebellion against the Imperium and will be fired upon by loyal forces. On the tactical display, the Zeheran fleet's aggressive formation wavered, then began to dissolve as vessels returned to neutral positions. It appears they've chosen loyalty for now, Khosroth observed, though I suspect there will be repercussions once we return to Imperial space. For both of us, Volkov acknowledged, revealing this truth won't be without consequences. Indeed, the Admiral's expression grew solemn. The question becomes, what do we do with this truth, Captain? Generations of Zeherans have been raised to view humans as genetic aberrations, dangerous vermin to be exterminated. Your surviving population has been taught to see us as genocidal monsters. Volkov considered this. We start with survival, then truth, then perhaps reconciliation. A long path, Khosroth noted. But preferable to extinction, wouldn't you agree? The Zeheran Admiral's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Indeed, it seems your one ship has changed everything, Captain Volkov. 6 months later, Captain Volkov stood in the observation dome of New Harmony Station, watching as the combined human-Zeheran research vessel Symbiosis II prepared for its maiden voyage. The massive ship, incorporating technologies from both species, gleamed in the light of the binary stars, a testament to how quickly cooperation could advance when ancient hatreds were set aside. Beside him stood Admiral Khosroth, still uncomfortable in the human standard gravity but adapting gradually. The purists have been purged from the Imperial military, the Zeheran reported, though their sympathizers still whisper in the shadows, and your extremists. Similar situation, Volkov acknowledged. Centuries of hatred don't disappear overnight, but each collaborative project weakens their position. And strengthens ours. Khosroth gestured toward the viewscreen, where dozens of ships from both species moved in coordinated patterns, conducting joint exercises. The Symbiosis II's mission to locate the crystalline entity is merely the beginning. Our scientists believe there may be an entire species of such beings in the interdimensional spaces we've only begun to explore. Volkov nodded. Dr. Takemura's final notes suggested as much. I believe she encountered one during the early days of our exile. It may explain how she developed technologies that seemed impossible. Technologies that allowed one human ship to face an armada, Khosroth observed wryly, and change everything. As the Symbiosis II engaged its hybrid drive system, combining Zeheran gravitic technology with human quantum mechanics, and disappeared into the darkness of space, Volkov reflected on the fragility of peace, the persistence of truth, and the power of a single ship to alter the course of two civilizations. To new beginnings, he said quietly. The Admiral's harmonic voice resonated beside him, and ancient connections restored.